welcome back, everyone. My name is Pariwash. Today, we're joined here with a lovely guest. Her name is Dr. Leticia Moshwe. That being said, she is an extraordinary human being, and I will cut short, and you can do the rest of your introduction the way you please.
Thank you. So yes, I am Leticia Moshwe, Dr. Leticia Moshwe, and I am the president and founder of a small community interest company called LitBase. And LitBase is actually an acronym short for Learning, Innovation and Technology Base. And when I set up the organization, first of all, I thought, okay, so I know that I need to help a lot of people because we have to face it. We're living in times when there's a lot of people really suffering. And I think as harsh as the word may sound, it is the reality of it. And whether you are in a developing country or you are in the UK or the Western world, should I say, because you're in America, I presume.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Whether you are in America, you are in England or Europe or somewhere that we consider developed countries, people are still suffering. Every day I'm hearing people complaining of the issues that they're facing, financial difficulties, lack of resources, and all of that creates a ripple effect on your communities, in your families, and then on the country as a whole as well. And so I really wanted to create an organization that is there to support people who are facing lack, who are facing lack of opportunities, who are facing lack of information, lack of finances, lack of food. So it's really there to support the people. And I thought, what is one of the major aspects that people need in order to change their lives around? And that's where the name Learning, Innovation and Technology came from, because I thought we need to first learn things that are different. So we're doing something different from what we're normally used to. So it's about learning and unlearning stuff. And I've thought I want to find innovative ways to be able to do that. So there's learning, innovation, and then obviously with innovation comes the element of technology, because we are living in a time when, without technology, you really can't do anything. So that's where the name came from. And then I just had to cut it down to Lit, because otherwise it's just too much of a long name to give. And what LitBase does is we are currently working in not just the UK, but we're also working in Africa. And the parts of Africa that we're working in is the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, and also Angola. And the way that we work is different in each country. So we go based on the needs that we happen to find at that time. And we work in partnership with people who have established organizations, and then we partner with them and be able to provide the support that is required. And so that means that we are working with people who have learning disabilities. We are working with people who have a lack of food, people who have been displaced due to wars. We're working with orphans and widows as well, just supporting them in various different ways. And we do programs where we teach people on personal development, financial literacy. We teach people on human rights activism as well, and what their rights are within their constitution as well. And I find that this has been extremely helpful, but I have to admit we do have our struggles. Now, I know you said for me to just introduce myself. I may have gone a little bit too much on that. So I'm going to let you ask me the next question.
Okay, so for the introduction, I do want to say I really did appreciate it, and in no way did I find it too lengthy. So with all of this going on, helping orphans, helping this minority, that minority, you must have your struggles with funding all of these projects. How do you manage, and how can we, the people, help support your organizations?
Thank you. So you see, the issue with the funding is actually a major issue that's a lot of the younger, smaller community interest companies and charities as well, is that before you can really do a project that we can consider truly worthwhile, you need to get funding. And a lot of these funding organizations, they tend to sway more towards the companies or organizations that they already know, the bigger charities, the ones that are already receiving millions from people around the world. I don't want to mention any name of any charity because, I don't want to endorse anyone, or I don't want to give any image or bad image of any organization out there. But, we do have organizations that people will choose to give to just simply because of their name, because they've been there for a very long time. And I'll give you an example. There was a gentleman who had put together a group, and he said, whilst we are a group that are business people connecting with one another just to share various business ideas, how about we make it something that also gives back to communities, and we will choose one charity that we all agree with to then be able to have weekly meetings and then fundraise for them and give them that money. And I said, oh, that's brilliant, because I run a charitable organization. So this will be perfect. And he just looked at me and he said, well, people don't really know your organization. And I said, so does that mean that you can't support me because people don't really know the organization? And he said, yeah, we're better off going for something that people can relate to, like the red. Oh, I wasn't meant to mention names. Forget that part. Yeah, he said, we're better off going with an organization that people know and are able to relate to. And I thought, well, if everybody's doing that, then none of the young upcoming grassroots organizations will ever receive much funding. And he just kind of shrugged and went, I thought, well, I was very disheartened. I have to admit, I was very, very disheartened. And the conversation obviously went a bit stale from there. And so I went away and I thought, well, that's very unpleasant, because you want me to be part of your group, to be supporting your group, but you don't want to support what I'm doing. How is that a fair exchange? So I never went back to speak about it again with him anyway. And another time I was, because I also work with another organization that's also doing some great stuff out there. And we were having a meeting, a management meeting. And one of the members said, let's look for charities, one or two charities that we can start supporting and we can put on our website, that we actually support this particular charity because it looks good, And I said, I have a charity. and then the whole room went silent. And to be right there firsthand and have to hear that and experience that, it makes you wonder how much more other people are out there simply not receiving this help just because people feel that they're not big enough. And these large organizations, these large charities, I mean, I'm sure they've done what they've needed to do, but I've spoken to people who actually work for some of these large groups, and they've said, well, they get a lot of money, but when you look at what's actually happening on the ground, there's barely any work. So all those millions that they receive per year, where is it really going? Because the people doing the real work, the real impactful work, are grassroots, are on ground, really, getting their hands dirty, I could say, figuratively, but some are getting their hands dirty for real, because it depends on the projects that you're doing. They're the ones doing the real work, and they have minimal funding. And then you have people who are so large and will do the bare minimum, but because of their name, they receive like perhaps 80% of any of the funding gets given. So it really makes you look at what charities really are doing. I mean, we've seen campaigns running for, oh, let's help, Haiti, the Haitians, because of all the storms or whatever, and all the houses that's been ruined, and all the communities, and people will give millions and millions. But then when you look at the work that's actually has been done, like there's been documentaries, you don't even have to just take my word for it. You just have to go online and see for yourself. There's no real work to show for all the millions that they have received. And this is where it gets very disheartening, because you want to partner with some of these large organizations because it helps you it helps you raise your status quo. But some of them, same thinking. Yes, they are large, but why would they want to work with you, who is just a small, almost unknown organization, sometimes completely unknown? How they have to see how they benefit from that, because it's supposed to be a mutual exchange. So it does get very, very difficult, and especially when you're applying for funding, what they want to see is that you're in collaboration with somebody who's been there for a while, a name that they know. Then they're more likely to give you the funding as well. But then if the larger charities are saying, well, we don't really see what we'll get out of it because you're barely known, then you're in a cycle. I've had moments where I've planned out, the organization's planned out activities, and we've got a whole project, we've got a whole plan, and we just need the funding, and we apply for the funding, and it takes nearly 3 months, about 12 weeks before you hear back. And then you've got everything set up, you've got the date set and everything, and then they tell you, well, you can't have the funding. So now you have to hold back on that project because you couldn't get the funding. And that means that there are people out there who are missing out because the funding wasn't able to be given to you. So it is a real battle out there. And then you also have the issue of like the lack of awareness as well, and visibility. Without much funding, you can't really do very much marketing. I mean, you could try, and the fact that we live in a digital world, I can say kind of helps, but still the cost of digital marketing is not necessarily cheap either. And when you're working with just volunteers because you can't really afford to pay staff, then that means that you are in a situation where other people can really just choose to do what they want. I mean, volunteers are great, but there's also a lot of them that will do the bare minimum simply because they think, oh, well, whatever, any help I give is good enough. Just take whatever, just my presence is enough. Some of them like that their presence is enough. The fact that they're just there, and it's not right. Because for me, I don't know, maybe I'm expecting too much. I wouldn't say so, because I'm very lenient with people. But if you make a commitment, I feel that you need to fulfill it. And yes, you may only be getting your lunch and your travel covered, but you chose to make the commitment to support somebody, support an organization. Why not just do it? So it makes it hard when you are solely volunteer based, because you really do need a core team who are able to really get the ground going to do the everyday tasks that helps to maintain the organization. But when you're a small charity or you're a small community interest company, then you can't really afford to pay for these core staff team. And it puts you in a cycle of just having to now start doing a lot on your own, because when it's a volunteer, they'll tell you, well, I have other commitments and I have my other job and I have to do this, and I can just give you any time when I can squeeze in any time. And then you're left to have to do quite a lot on your own as well, and then you start to face a lot of burnout
I
because
see. Okay.
almost 24/7 on the clock.
Okay, so going back to one thing you mentioned, let's say that do you think that these fake organizations, like, okay, not fake necessarily, but those slacking or the philanthropists that are faking all the work they do you think that gives you like grassroots organizations a bad reputation and making it harder for you to grow your initiative?
Absolutely, because a lot of people have had enough of charities because of that. They've had enough of giving. I mean, it's almost, you can say that compassion is gone because they've seen the world of information that we're living in, this digital world, this world of the internet, has really opened our eyes to very many things. As much as we can say the younger generation are going through a lot more anxiety and depression because of this online world and such, but it's also come along and helped us to see the realities of what actually happens around the world, because in a split second you can see information that's happening in, I don't know, Pakistan. You can see information that's happening in China, everything in just a split second. You can see what's going on in, I don't know, Mozambique or in Nigeria or wherever. So that has now had people actually see that, well, a lot of the money that they thought was going towards helping people is not. These large charities will spend millions on a 30-second ad on TV, and then they will pay millions to a celebrity to stand in front of the camera and say, come and donate to this charity because we're trying to feed these children. But those millions that you're paying for that advert, those millions that you're paying for that endorsement from that celebrity, couldn't that have fed somebody? So it does give a very bad very, very bad reputation. And what I find is when you're speaking to people about your charity, or and this is something I've heard from many other small charities as well, and they say that a lot of people just are not giving anymore. And yes, we can say the cost of living has gone up, but when it comes to Christmas, people are splashing out. People are still traveling, going on holidays, they're still buying new cars and, still buying trendy stuff. But it's that compassion has been lost because people have had enough of seeing all these stories of sad people, hungry people, malnutrition people. And whilst it's true, these things are happening, but the fact that they've been exploited just to get money out of people makes everyone else think, well, I don't really know where my money's going towards. And it's very, very saddening because I have to admit, I put my own money into supporting my charity. When we have a project, I will literally dish out my own money from my own pocket and support it, because you don't always get the funding, and that's not sustainable long term, not sustainable at all. I hope that's answered your question.
It answers it perfectly. You mentioned how compassion is dying in a sense. You know how your organization, your charity, solely depends on compassion too. Like, think about it. The volunteers, they might be doing it just so they can put it on their college slip, but other than that, it really relies on compassion. Compassion. Why can I not pronounce anything? And also your funding. So how can you deal with this? Like, how can you show people that, oh yeah, we're transparent, your money is going over here? How do you like go through that process?
Well, what we do is once the program has finished, if we had a set program, and let's say we're fundraising for a certain thing. Like right now, we're fundraising to provide 1,000 meals to people who are lacking meals in the DRC. These are the ones that are living in camps because they had to flee their homes due to some wars that are happening in the east of Congo. And so Litspace has decided that we're going to pledge to feed 1,000 people for Christmas. And when you speak to people, like you said, some people just want to do it for show because they for them they think, oh yeah, it's going to make me look good. But what we do is we would give a report of exactly how the funding was used. So we'll show you, from what came in, we'll show you what was spent on what. So if we had to buy like 25 bags of 20 kg rice, we'll show you, this was what the cost was, the receipts. We'll show you, how much it cost to transport it to the camps. We'll show you how it was divided, each sack of rice and plus other stuff as well. It's not just rice. Of course, it's a variety of different foods. We'll show you the individual items and how it was distributed. And we'll have evidence of videos and pictures, and the people on the videos will actually talk and tell you, oh, thank you so much, we've received the bag. So that these are real people receiving real foods that you've sent due to the money that you've provided. So that way people will be able to see, okay, at least my money went somewhere, and we'll even tell you the equivalence of how many people what you gave would feed. So if you gave, let's say, £50, then £50 would have fed like 10 people, for maybe 2-3 days. So we would give you that breakdown so that okay, this, my money actually went towards something that's worthwhile.
Okay, thank you so much. So another one I have for you is, how do you determine which communities to prioritize? And how do you reconcile the tension between immediate needs and long-term sustainability?
Right. So how we determine the communities that we support. So, well, first and foremost, the vision of the organization is to be in every country. That is our vision. And of course, we've got to start, slowly, step by step. But what we do is we liaise with the locals and we see what the issue is. So if, for example, I happen to come across somebody who's like, for me, I chose Congo. First of all, I'm doing UK, Congo, Angola, and Nigeria at the moment, right? So UK, of course, I live in the UK and I see what's going on. So I'm supporting the people in the UK because of the fact that I'm one of the locals. And then I chose the Congo as well because that's my home country. That's where I was born. So, and I know the struggles that people are facing there. It is a war-torn country. There is a lot of suffering there. There are people actually not knowing what food, if they're even going to eat that day. So I know that information. So I picked that country. And then the way that we select it is when we come across, because we work with partnerships, and the partnerships that we work with will tell us, this is the issue that this particular community is facing right now. And, this is how we can help them. There's always much bigger ways to help, but we look at what can we do in this instance, because we have to remember as well, we're still very a young charity. We're still a very grassroots and we don't really have much funding. So we have to look at how can we help them in a way that is high impact, low resources. So we have to also pick like that. I mean, I'd love to get into healthcare into some of these countries, but right now I can't because there's just so much required for that. There's so you got to get the doctors together, you got to get the nurses together, you've got to get the materials, everything that you're going to need. So that one, I know, though it's a plan, I can't really delve into that right now. So I will choose to do the little that do what I can with the higher impact with less resources. So that's how we decide. really. Okay, so this is what they need, but can we delve into that just yet? Okay, if not, can we at least be a small part of it?
Okay.
That's how we yeah, and then from that we develop it on.
All right, I see. So another thing you mentioned was providing, for example, a bag of rice to
Mm.
families and such when we donate money. When providing humanitarian aid to, like, do you do so by offering resources directly, or do you do so like by focusing on locally sourced products that boost the economy rather than imported goods, which don't contribute as much in a sense? Because as you mentioned, Congo is war torn, and so if you were to buy local products from there and then give it to the people over there, I don't know that much really, but I would assume that the shipping would probably be less, and in that case you also support the economy for Congo, and you can help them empower themselves. Or do you have your own little partnership for a product?
Right. So we are all about and building an ecosystem that works, that is long term and sustainable. Sustainability is our core focus. So when it comes to that, yes, we do actually just buy locally. Again, like you said, there's less of logistics, so we're saving costs on logistics because shipping from the UK all the way to over there, first of all, it's going to take a very long time because you can't just send it on a plane. It will take like 6 weeks to get there if you ship it. And then that's very costly. And then also when it gets there, there's more other logistics because there has to be checks done and this and that. But if you're buying from a local source, sometimes we would work with local businesses that are able to donate even some of their foods. But in Africa, you find that that's not as often as you may find it here. So where we'll try and get some people to donate, which will help us cut down on the monies that we need to spend on these things, or we'll just get it from a local supplier. That means that they can just easily get it there the next day or even sometimes the same day. But again, it's all about saving costs because we want to be as impactful as possible. So if it has to all be, first of all, buying it here is going to be too much because costs in Africa is less than cost here. And then to then pay for the shipping is all too much logistics. And we don't have the space to store anything that we can say, let's just stock it up and then send it over there. We don't really have that space. So we calculate what's needed. They give quotations based on the local store, local prices over there. Then we know how much we're going to need. So we then send it and they do the works from there.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for clearing that up. That was very, very nicely said. Okay. And when resources are scarce, who decides which lives are prioritized? Like which families gets to take the resources? Have you ever faced moral dilemmas in this kind of situation?
Okay. So we speak with so the way that we work, because even we work even with children, so we may ask the schools will know which of the kids there are coming from the families that really do lack. And also if we're working with, because there's different countries I'm working with, like in Nigeria, we work with the schools where we provide back to school materials, we provide school supplies, provide books, and we will check with the schools themselves which children have a real lack. And if we're talking about the Congo, then these camps that the people are living with, there are leaders in each camp, and they will tell you which of those families haven't ate for a while, or which of those families are really, really struggling because maybe they've got more people there and completely nothing to get by with. So we get the information from the people who are actually heading these communities, and they have the information and they know what's going on ground. So that's how we prioritize.
Brilliant. Okay. And how do you view and or incorporate the saying you feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime? Or is that not an option we're able to consider?
Oh, we do that. We actually have a program that we run, which we call Women of Substance, and we're about to start one called Man of Substance as well. So we work with the leaders within those communities, and they're able to feed back to us, because we tell them we want you to really do a survey in the area and see who really in that group, in that community, showcases leadership skills. And with that, we then this is going back to the camps, because these people, they had to flee their home. Some of them, they had businesses. They may have had a farm. They used to keep them going. They may have had like a little market store, but they had to run because of the wars. So now they've got nothing. And that's a big shift in life. So again, it causes depression. So we would look at that and say, okay, those leaders will assess, and then they'll come back and feedback to us and say XYZ, really would do with a bit of support, and they can easily get themselves back on their feet. So we go, okay, then, so we'll pick this person. So this Women of Substance initiative, what it does is we'll pick a few women, and we'll say, okay, since you're showing leadership skills, we'll train you and provide you with resources. So we'll train them on how to maybe make pastry products like croissants and little cake stuff that they can sell in the market or sell to other people in the area, so that they can start making money for themselves to be able to feed their family and sustain themselves. And with that, once we've done that, we're not just coming and teaching them and then giving them a little bit of micro finance and leaving them at it. No, we chase up every month. We see, okay, how's your small business going? What other support can we provide? What are your struggles? How can we be of more help? So, and then teach them as well on finance management, on maybe how to market in their local area. So just little things that they can do to ensure that they are keeping that business lucrative and it's actually working for them.
All
And
right.
also that they're making good use of what we've helped them with.
Okay, so honestly, I just want to be really blunt here. I want to say that I really love all the work you're doing, and you genuinely seem very, very passionate about what it is you're doing exactly. Like you're putting your own money into this. So, just like a side question, why did you start this? Why did you take it over your head to start this full organization?
Wow. I took it over my head because maybe I'm crazy. No, no. I myself am coming from a family that hasn't had the best of what the world can provide. I'm coming from the very country that I'm talking about here, the war-torn country, and we had to flee there ourselves as well to come and find a better life here in the UK. And all of my life, all I just keep thinking is people need help. And I've been fortunate enough to be living in the UK, where yes, it hasn't been a rich life for me. My childhood days, though I was in the UK for most part of it, I still lived in poverty. I still lived in an area where there was a lot of people not really doing so great, and you could see that. And we went through stages in our childhood where our parents couldn't even afford to send us on some school trips. We just had to stay at home when all the other children had to go on a trip. When other children were wearing new Nike shoes, we couldn't. We had to go to the local shoe zone and buy just regular unnamed trainers or whatever. And the honest truth of it is us, and a lot of the things that we had to wear were when we were younger and had no choice, were secondhand. And so I know what it feels like, but I haven't lived that. There's another level of poverty that I can say I've been fortunate enough to not have to face. And I know that it would have been very great if I had had support in the my younger days, or just in general, really. So I know, and I have that compassion, because though I can't say I know how they feel because it's a different level, because I can say I still had food. that one for sure. But I just feel that I need to be able to support people, and that when I started the company, I wanted to first of all help people in the UK and help people in the Congo as well, but through partnerships and communicating with other charities and stuff, I found that of course there are other countries that also need support. And so I started partnering with other organizations to help other countries as well. And the plan is to really be everywhere. Where there is a need, lit space should be there. And we want to
Okay.
get to a point as well where we can do emergency relief as well. But that requires a whole other level of logistics as well. But I believe we can get there.
Okay, I wish you best of luck on your mission. And my last question for you is that, is there anything people internationally watching can do to support you?
Oh, absolutely. We could do with as much support as possible. It doesn't always have to. Support is not always monetary. There's many supports. Like you can even partner with us. You can even donate as well. Goods. Um, Finances does help because it keeps the company going. But even donating goods, donating food, donating clothes, those things can help as well. I know we said shipping from here to to Africa is very costly, but if you can only contact us and ask us if we can take some of the stuff that you have, we can certainly get a storage space. And once the stuff are large enough, then we can look at shipping it. At least then we didn't have to buy it, so it still helps cut down on some costs. So, and also if you want to volunteer, you have some services like we could do with some admin support. We can do with some marketing support. That one definitely helps, where you can just work on your computer and meet up every once in a while. That would be of great help as well.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, and thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been a Pariwash. It's been a great interview.